Hello everyone, this is Morfixer here. It's been a while to anyone who has, oddly enough, subscribed to my channel. I'm actually just going to go on a bender here, or to more precise, just be honest and say that this video is completely unscripted. And that might go as well as you think it will. I just like to talk about, I don't know, random stuff, video games, I guess. And how I feel about certain franchises in the current environment and how I think they've evolved for the worst. Most of them have, at least. To start this, I would actually like to talk about Zelda. Yeah, wow, big shocker. Oh my god, Zelda, wow. I didn't see that one coming. Well, sorry if I'm being condescending. But either way, I just really think that Zelda at the moment was... The reason I'm starting with Zelda is because I feel like Zelda was the franchise that made me kind of wake up from my video game obsession. As odd as that sounds, Tears of the Kingdom, to me, was, in my opinion, going to be this amazing epic story. You know, they were finally going to do everything taking place in modern day. It's not going to be some time shenanigans. It's not going to be any tears, or whatever they call the memory system. And Ganondorf was going to be active, and, you know, the story was going to be epic, you know. And the dungeons, like, I felt like, to just summarize, I felt like this was going to be the game that was going to combine the old with the new in a perfect blend, you know. Because, again, the Zelda team has always been known for listening to their fans. So much so that they usually course correct drastically. Again, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild. Yeah, there's a massive tonal shift and approach to the game design overall. Like, if I recall, the entire engine took several years to make. And then the game itself didn't take that long compared to the engine, but yeah, it took a lot of time to make that game. That's why it took so long for us to finally get a new Zelda game. And for some reason it took like 6 years to use the same map with some slight variations here and there. My god, when people said that game was DLC, Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, come on, there's no fucking way. But I'm gonna be honest, I kind of felt like, yeah, it's kind of DLC, I'm not gonna lie. And I just it kind of brought me out of my video game obsession, my video game addiction, if you will. Like, I loved, I think loved would be more accurate. Yes, loved, I think I said it already, loved video games when I grew up. Like, that was my jam. Final Fantasy IX, Super Mario World. All these games that my stepdad conveniently had a Super Nintendo, so I got to play Mortal Kombat 2, I think. I don't remember if that was on Super Nintendo. But yeah, that and Super Mario World. Super Mario World was the first game to truly hook me on video games. I just fell in love with this little mustachioed man jumping around on mushrooms and stuff. Those were the days. And I really, truly loved video games. Like, it was such a special, unique, and oh, that was my cat, if you heard, unique experience. I'd never seen anything like it. But then again, I was only 5, so I hadn't seen much by then. But yeah, I started my video game journey when I was 5 years old, and I played video games non-stop. Like, that was my main hobby all the way up until my 30s. It's been my main hobby. Yes, I'm actually 30 years old. You might not think it from my voice, but I am actually 30. And turning 31 this year. God damn it. So yeah, I'm 1993. Late 1993. So I'm borderline on 1994, actually. But never mind that. I was so hooked on it that you couldn't really tear me away from the screen back as a kid. I was just so addicted to video games that it literally kind of hurt my social environment. Like, it caused me to have major undeveloped social skills that I'm still suffering from to this day. because I just couldn't stop playing them video games. They were so addicting. They were so fun. And The Legend of Zelda was a franchise that I didn't really discover until Ocarina of Time, when my cousins were playing it on Nintendo 64, and I was like, wow, what is this? What is this game, man? But yeah, back to the main topic of how I feel that video games have just, to me anyway, or maybe to a lot of people, have kind of lost that spark, you know? If you go back and play the old games from PlayStation 2 era and like, I don't know, you just move on from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, like you can tell there's like some kind of major shift. Not massively, but from the PS2 and up to like the beginning of PS4, maybe, gaming became so fucking huge. And with that came all the changes that many of us don't like. You know, modern politics, DEI, let's shove in a diverse character, let's replace this white guy with a black guy for some reason. Yet we won't do the same thing when, you know, you have a black guy already. Then we're not going to switch his, you know, we're not going to play equally on that ball field, you know. It's such a strange point in video games. Like, it's become this political minefield, which is so strange because that's not what video games were back in the day. Video games back in the day was simply like, I like Nintendo, oh, I like PlayStation, and then you kind of back and forth argument which one was better, depending on what time period Nintendo was better, and depending on like more modern 2000s opinions, that PlayStation was definitely better. It was a different time, and video games were way more focused on the game, you know, like you bought the game and then you had the game, you know. And the people who made the games were definitely gamers themselves, and you could tell, like, play Jak and Daxter 1 and 2. Like, it's so clear that these people who made these games just fucking loved video games. You know, play the original Dragon Age Origins, or Mass Effect, which came 1 year before Dragon Age, actually. Like, these people love video games, you could tell. I still think the Mass Effect trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. And those are very old now. Like, Mass Effect 3 came out 2012. That's 12 years ago, if I do my... almost 12 years ago. That's a long-ass fucking time. Some of you watching this, if you're watching this, and you're like 11, you weren't even born when that game came out. That's insane to me. But yeah, video games was a very different... It was a different field. Now, every time you look at a new game, you have to think, okay, what are they going to censor? What are they going to remove? What is it this time? Like, I remember when Persona 3 Reload was coming out. Ah, fuck me, Persona. Oh, what a series. Ironically, Persona 4 is my favorite game in the franchise. And I played Persona 5 first. And then I was so hooked on this franchise. This is my number one franchise at the moment, by the way. Yeah, it topped Zelda easily. Persona 5 was so good that I was like, I have to play the older ones. And it was the first time ever that I genuinely bought an old copy of a game on PlayStation 2 on Amazon. Bought both Persona 4, the standard one, and Persona 3 FES. And Persona 4 was like, it blew me out of the water. The story, the characters, the mystery, the intrigue. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And then we have Persona 3. Persona 3 was like this. It didn't start as strong. I think the Persona 3 was kind of... It started off as very typical generic anime. You know, like we have the rich, beautiful lady. We have the typical white-haired guy who likes to fight. We have the obvious main romantic love interest. You know, and the bro guy, you know, Junpei, who's like the bro dude guy, who's, you know, the idiot of the group that everyone makes fun of all the time. 4 had more of that, but 4 felt so much more organic. The characters felt so much more real, so much more alive. And that's obviously because it was sequel to 3, and 3 was very anime. I mean, it had a robot maid, essentially. Well, not really maid, but you get a robot combat woman girl, you know, like Aegis, which I fucking love, by the way. But back to Persona 3 Reload. Like, the first thing I was thinking before that game came out, was, okay, what are they going to censor? What are they going to remove? Like, that was the main point of my mind. And maybe that says a lot about me. But that was the main worry I had. Like, what are they going to censor? What are they going to remove? Whom are they going to replace or change or, you know, insert some dumbass Western politics here? And I played the game, and I was surprised. I was shocked that they didn't really. They didn't really change any of it. Well, some small lines of text here and there, but it was so minute that it might as well just been an updated version. But it's exactly what it was supposed to be. Yes, I know some of you were pissy that they didn't get the female route, but many of you must understand that the female route is actually not even an Atlas product in a sense. It's, if I recall, it was made by a different developer. So that's the explanation. And they just wanted to make it as authentic to the original game as possible with some of Fez's elements in it. And of course, control your party members, you know. But yeah, like, I think that kind of says it all. When the main focus of my mind was not, oh, I can't wait to play this game. It was, what are they going to remove? What are they going to censor? Whom is going to be replaced by whom? What is going to be... Like, that was the main focus of my mind. That was the main worry. And I was pleasantly surprised, because it's a Japanese game. And, like, I don't know, is that a main issue that we should really have to focus on in video games? I feel like video games should be apolitical as much as they can, you know? Oh, but video games have always been political. Yes, but they've been political within the setting of their world. If you play Dragon Age Origins, you bet your ass you're going to see some politics in there. But it's not going to be a Donald Trump moving up out of nowhere and going, I hate the, you know, you insert some dumbass character that's just ridiculously, cartoonishly evil. And he just happens to have a toupee and he just happens to be like, brown, you know, orange skinned. Like, you wouldn't see that in Origins. In Origins, it would just be the setting of the world. What is the lore? What races are there? What do they believe? Do they have kingdoms? You know, like the elves and the Kunari and all that. They all had politics, but it was within the context and the confines of the world. Hell, even Jak and Daxter had politics. Jak and Daxter too. You know, there was a major war going on between those... I don't remember the name of the monsters. But a major war between the leaders of the city and the monsters. Even though the major leader of the city was actually working with the leader of the monsters. I don't remember the exact details of why. But it was a very different game. A different time period, different games. And now, like, I don't know. There are very few games that make me happy, you know. That make me want to sit down and play the games anymore. I've been so burnt by modern video gaming. Except for Elden Ring. Elden Ring is oh, man, that's a good game. Again, a Japanese developer. What a surprise. Shocker, shocker. Wow. Yeah. I just think that video games have just changed for the worse. They used to be about having fun and enjoying the experience. Some of those games still exist for me. Again, the Persona series, the original Mass Effect, some of the original Zelda games, Twilight Princess, and Ocarina of Time. And to some extent, Majora's Mask. I am going to be honest, I've never liked the timer system in Majora's Mask. I don't like being constantly reminded that, you know, I have a timer and everything has to be redone once I reset the timer. Jesus fucking Christ, that's annoying. Yeah. You know, like I just think that video games have kind of changed for the worst. And you might be thinking, like, where have you been these last 15 years? You know, like, haven't you been paying attention? Oh, trust me, I've seen a lot of discussions on both ends about this, both on the, well, I don't know, quote unquote right and quote unquote left. I'm not going to pretend to be a centrist, because if I were to be honest, I'm definitely leaning more towards the supposed right-wingers. You know, I'm not a fan of inserting politics into video games. I'm not a fan of, at least not inserting modern day politics into video games. I think that's just silly. But that's just me. You might not agree with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. Just don't call me a racist in the comments for saying that maybe the world should stick to its narrative, you know, to its setting, to where they are geologically, you know, like if you're in a Western hemisphere or Viking-esque, like cold North hemisphere, maybe there shouldn't be a random black person shoved in there for diversity points, unless he's well, no, I can't say that, damn it. It's just kind of weird. It's just kind of weird. I'm just saying that the video game industry has definitely changed for the worst, not for the better. Remember Overlord, anyone? Remember Overlord? That goofy game that came out on Xbox? Why can't we have something like that again? It's just like the video game, that's one thing also that's kind of been boring. It's become so stagnant. Everything is the same fucking schlop over and over again. It's the same fucking thing over and over and over, and you're just sitting there going, come on, come up with something new. And the only ones that dare to do something new are either indies, but they don't have the budget to actually make it look cool and interesting, or it's a Korean developer, but they make some crappy MMO, and you're sitting there going, why couldn't you just make this a cool single-player game? Why not create a new universe with new characters? Like, why are you so afraid of this? I would love to play something that was kind of inspired by a different universe. Like, I've toyed in my head at least the idea of having Larian make a Divinity game that is essentially a Bethesda-esque role-playing game. Yeah, imagine like Divinity Original Sin 2, but it's like a Bethesda open world, roaming around, doing quests, you know, experiencing the lore. No fucking pronouns in the bio. Hello, Avowed. Yeah, like, I think that'd be cool. Or even better, imagine if they made a Warhammer game, Warhammer fantasy game, where you could do that, where you could like role play as, like, I don't know, you could start, you pick your starting class or race, and you start off in different parts of the Warhammer fantasy world. Like, imagine picking a human farmer or something, and you start off like outside of Reichland, and you're just a dude. Or you could pick like background noblemen, and you start off in the city of Reichland, Altdorf. In the city of Altdorf. And you just play the game. You know, have some story set up for you, some background noise. Or if you play a Norse warrior, you begin in like the cold north or something. You know, you don't have to go too much over the top. If you pick an elf, a wood elf, you begin in the woodland realms. Now, of course, this game, in terms of scale, would be massive. So, technically speaking, you'd have to pick one zone to set that kind of game up. Obviously, the best one would be starting in the Empire. You know, Altdorf and some of the surrounding areas around Altdorf. That would work. I think that would work as an open world RPG game, kind of Bethesda-esque. And you can still pick your backgrounds, just depending on where you start. You know, if you pick a Norse, you might start further up in north, you know. If you pick more Reichlander, you begin in Reichland. If you pick an elf, you begin closer to the woodland, to the you know, the woodland area, pretty close to Altdorf, to the Empire. If you pick a vampire, you begin in Sylvania. Obvious, right? Maybe that could be like the main villain, like the vampires and the undead and all that stuff. I think that could work. Obviously, we all know that the main villain would ultimately be Chaos, but yeah, let's keep it under wraps and pretend like that's not the case until the end. And it's going to be a Sintian demon you fight in the end, because for some reason, the Warhammer game developers tend to love the birds. They love the birds. But yeah, that would be a cool idea. I mean, yes, I'm not coming up with anything original here. If I were to come up with something original, I think the best idea would be to make an RPG where you're actually the bad guy. Yeah, you're not the good guy, you're the bad guy. You're trying to take over the world. That would be a fun RPG. Imagine a JRPG where you're actually the main villain. You know, where you're actually trying to take over the world and you're recruiting bad guys. You're not recruiting good guys, you're recruiting bad guys to your team. And you try to take over the world. Man, that'd be cool. But sadly, video games have become, like I said, stagnant. So they don't want to come up with anything new or anything interesting, because that means you're going to have to take a risk, and that is a big no-no. Absolutely not okay. So yeah, I don't know if a game developer is listening into this. There's an idea. It'd be a fun idea. But nobody wants to play the bad guy. Are you kidding me? People love playing the bad guy. The bad guy is always fun, because you can't be a bad guy in real life. Well, you could be, but usually there's some major consequences for that kind of bad guy. For, you know, villainy. But yeah, I just think that video games are going stagnant. They're boring. They're not as fun as they used to be. Every time I sit down and try to play a game I used to love, my legs start shaking and and my head starts going, what are you doing? And it's because it's not fun anymore. It's not as fun anymore. And that's because it's grown stagnant. And yeah, sometimes I think a video game should stay in its lane. Zelda. Sometimes I genuinely think that video games should stay in their lane. Mass Effect, Zelda, Dragon Age. Hello, Veilguard. He, him. That's funny. That's stupid. And yeah, but they should some games should do that. I feel like Zelda stepping way too much into the open world and completely discarding all their previous stories and all that stuff is just stupid. And I might be wrong in that. Maybe they'll change course. Maybe the next Zelda game will be darker, more gritty, more adult. I doubt it. But maybe it will. Maybe it will. But that remains to be seen. Either way, this is my first video in an entire year. Almost, I think, yes. So I sure hope you enjoyed this annoying video of me just rambling on and not having a script and just kind of going off on what I think has kind of gone wrong with the video game industry. I guess I can make many videos about this. So I might actually do that. But either way, thanks for watching and tell me what you think. Morph out.